The Philippines has often been an underrated gem in the realm of travel, overshadowed by its neighboring countries in terms of international tourist arrivals, ITA. As part of the ASEAN 6, it ranks the lowest in visitor numbers, with only 5.5 million ITA in 2023. In stark contrast, Indonesia welcomed 11.7 million tourists, Vietnam recorded 12.6 million, Singapore attracted 13.6 million, Malaysia had a staggering 26 million, and Thailand topped the list with an impressive 28 million visitors. Yet, when you delve deeper, it becomes evident that none of these countries can truly lay claim to being more beautiful or captivating than the Philippines. The nation boasts a diverse array of stunning sights across its 7,641 islands, enriched by a population of over 112 million and a deep heritage of diverse cultures and traditions. Despite its modest ITA figures, the Philippines stands out with the highest per capita spending by tourists. In 2023, each visitor averaged $1,770 in expenditures, the highest among the ASEAN countries. In comparison, Malaysia's 26 million tourists spent an average of only $755 each, while Thailand's visitors averaged $1,200. This significant data illustrates that the Philippines is attracting quality travelers willing to invest in their experiences, thereby bolstering the economy, as tourism accounts for approximately 8.6% of the country's GDP.
Do you want the latest information for Philippine expats and expat vloggers? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to this Sunday's edition of Expat News, where I cover the latest stories and events affecting expats and the expat vlogger community in the Philippines. Well, hi, I'm Eric, and welcome to my Island Expats channel. Just as a reminder, these expat news videos come out first thing Sunday mornings U.S. time. So let's start this week's edition with some recent highlights happening for both expats and expat vloggers in the Philippines.
With the USD to peso exchange rate, the peso gaining a little ground on the US dollar. Right now, $1 equal to 58 pesos. Positive news for Filipinos and the Philippines. Manny Pacquiao, one of the most decorated boxers in history, has been elected to the International Boxing Hall of Fame as part of the class of 2025. Pacquiao, I believe 8 different divisions he's won titles in, so good for him, well deserved.
European firms are eyeing more investments in the Philippines. Jackie Pascual reports.
European businessmen in the Philippines are looking to expand their operations in the country in the coming years. Based on the 2024 Business Sentiment Survey of the European Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines, 85.30% of respondents expect their level of trade and investment to increase over the next 4 years in the Philippines, while only over 3% say their business will decrease. Among the top factors that drive European businesses' interests in expanding in the Philippines are economic recovery and growth opportunities, stable government and political system, and improvement in infrastructure. Both say the Philippines remains one of the best performing economies in the region, with investment opportunities in banking, energy, telecommunications, and infrastructure.
We're expecting solid growth rates at around 6%. So that will place the Philippines among, the second fastest grower in the region.
Filipino drug convict Mary Jane Veloso finally set to return home after 14 years in jail in Indonesia. Indonesia says President Prabowo Subianto himself directed to have Veloso back in the Philippines before Christmas. The Indonesian government also making clear it did not ask for anything in exchange for Veloso's transfer. Veloso was arrested in Indonesia in 2010, is set to continue her jail sentence in the Philippines. But Indonesia says it would respect any decision made by Manila, including a possible clemency. Time constraints seen as the biggest challenge endorsing the impeachment complaints against Vice President Sara Duterte, with the looming midterm elections being the biggest roadblock. Vivian Gulia reports.
The impeachment proceedings against Vice President Sara Duterte may face time constraints if the complaint is not filed by at least one-third of lower house members, according to at least two lawmakers. Under the Constitution and the House rules, if this requirement is satisfied, the verified complaint or resolution of impeachment shall be endorsed by the House plenary straight to the Senate without having to go through the House Committee on Justice.
Before we jump into the project, tell us about your journey to Canada.
It's been more than 5 years since I left the Philippines. I always refer to it as a leap of faith. August 2019, when I decided to go back to school as an international student here and explore opportunities in another country. I remember I was about to turn 40 years old then, and I wanted to do something exciting, something new in my life. But more importantly, together with my husband, we wanted bigger, better, more opportunities for two boys, Uno and Yuan. So after finishing a program on broadcast and online journalism at British Columbia Institute of Technology, BCIT in Burnaby, I decided to explore the possibility of probably calling Canada home. And in 2022, we got our permanent residency and Canada has been home.
Wow, okay. So tell us about the project 75 Faces of Migration and what does that entail?
The Philippines and Canada are celebrating 75 years of diplomatic relations this 2024. And to mark this milestone, the Canadian Embassy in the Philippines, in collaboration with the Philippine Embassy in Ottawa, launched the 75 Faces Project. The project features stories of 75 Filipino Canadians. And this is just a part of what has been a year-long celebration of the enduring friendship of two nations. Through my career in television, I did almost 2 decades of broadcast journalism in the Philippines. And I never really expected, Kate, that I will be able to do that profession here. But again, here I am, very thankful, and it's an answered prayer, more so that I am part of such a big project, such as 75 Faces. It kind of validates my purpose and my decision to be here.
The turnover of NAIA to San Miguel Corporation, they have been working left and right on renovations, changes, things that they can do for the travelers to make their experience smooth, easy, no hassle under this management. On the changes that they're going to be doing, approaching the peak season in December, easier and hassle-free during their travel. One of the things that he mentioned is early check-in. As you guys know, when you are traveling internationally, you must be at the airport at least 4 hours before you depart, because you have to go through a lot of process. And sometimes check-in counters doesn't really open 3 hours prior to your flight. So the good news from San Miguel Corporation, what they said is the airlines should open their gates earlier. So if before 3 hours, hopefully this time 4 hours before you depart, 5 hours before you depart, the counters are already open for check-in, for bag drop-off, because as we all know, peak season, there will be a lot of travelers coming in and out of the Philippines. So that's actually good that counters will open earlier than usual. He also stated that they are adding more immigration counters and immigration officers.
And now it's time for the video of the week. This is where I give you a summarized version of one of the best videos I came across in the entire week. So let's take a look.
Growing up, I really didn't like being Filipino. I didn't. I wasn't proud to be Filipino. I didn't have any reason to be proud. Straight up. I wanted to be Hawaiian in high school. I wanted to be Hawaiian because everybody loved Hawaii. They didn't talk about the Philippines. And when they did talk about the Philippines, it was not good. You know, kidnappings in the Philippines, poverty, corruption. And you're like, why would I want to be a part of that? And then those immigrants would come And the jokes came. It's like, oh, they're a bunch of fobs, fresh off the boat. So growing up, I never really wanted to be Filipino. It didn't change until I was over 40. Before that, it was all business. It was all making money. That's who I was. But it happened 16, 17 years ago, and really saw the Philippines. That's where it all changed. Being there and walking through those slums and feeling what I felt. You know, I just felt their pain, and I felt their joy. And I'm just like, what the hell is that? How do you feel pain and how do you feel joy? What the hell is this thing going on in my heart? I never felt that in my life before. These are like strangers. These were supposed to be the bad people that made me look bad. These were supposed to be the kidnappers. And I'm the guy who walks in there who has everything. And I walked out of there with something more. And instead of me giving them something, they gave me something back. I felt something in my heart. I felt this connection. And it was pure. There's this like thing that I was feeling about them, and I could never explain what it was. But it made me happy. And it made me feel good. It was the day I became Filipino. It was the day I felt them and they felt me. I went on that trip to the Philippines as an American, but I came back as a Filipino. And that was the biggest gift that I could ever have. I fell in love with the people, and I fell in love with the country that I never knew. And it came back and it lived right there. And I said, our people need to know. My cousins need to know. My friends need to know. And that's really where I was on a mission to tell the truth. And that's kind of where I'm at today. The Filipino story is a Cliff Note version of what I wanted to know about my own people and this country called the Philippines, where I've encapsulated everything that I feel in my heart as a Filipino. Our goal is to move, touch, and inspire a Filipino audience to realize our true greatness as a people. And they could finish it with clarity, knowing, oh my God, I'm a Filipino. Now I know where I come from. Now I know what happened. And oh my God, it moves my heart. I'm not just Phil-Am, I'm Filipino. And when I thought there were two types of Filipino, a Phil-Am and a Filipino, there's only one. And as much as I made fun of the immigrants that came and called them boat people, we're one people on the same journey, on the same boat. And I know that now. And that boat is how we're gonna get to greatness again. I'd love for people to come on this boat with us. If they're yearning to understand who they are, what happened, join us, because we're here to tell that. Finally, and I'm doing this for my kids. I want my kids to know, and I want my kids' kids to know that they come from a great land, a great people. If you're one of those people, join us. Just join us, because you're going to realize at the end of the day, we're all on the same boat. And the boat's going to get stronger, and it's going to get faster to the destination we want to get to if everybody just hops on. That's all we're asking. It's going to be a fun ride. It's going to be a beautiful ride. I promise you.
Imagine this. You walk into my office. I give you two options to stay in the Philippines for a long time. Option one, you cash out 20,000 US dollars upfront and pay $360 every year after that. Option two, you don't cash out anything. You only need to pay $50 to $60 on average every 2 months, or around $500 annually. Option two sounds like a great deal, right? To put things in context, option one is actually the SRRV, or the retirement visa. The other option would be just the tourist visa, the plain old tourist visa, where expats can do multiple extensions and stay here for a long time. Here's the thing. It's not easy as it sounds. In fact, that's exactly why there are a lot of foreign tourists here in the Philippines. Back in 2023, there are around 5.4 million international visitors here in the Philippines alone. So how are expats staying here in the Philippines as a tourist for over 10 years? That's because they have been doing the visa run. And let me tell you something more about that in this video. Hey guys, it's Kevin. I'm your visa guy here in the Philippines. And for nearly 5 years, I have worked as a visa agent in a reputable firm here in Cebu. And now I have this platform where I can talk everything that I know all for free, so expats like you would understand Philippine immigration much more easier. Let's get down to business. Being in the field for nearly 5 years, I've worked with a lot of expats from all over the world, and most of them are from Western countries. I've worked with the retirees, single, married people, divorced, and some of them just wants to enjoy their life here in the Philippines on a budget. Today, I want to share you a client that I've encountered back in, I think, 2022 or 2023, how he managed to stay in the Philippines for 10 years under a tourist visa. Now, before I talk about his situation, I want to talk about the basic things that you need to know about your tourist visa privileges here in the Philippines. If you're from a non-visa required country, you can actually travel to the Philippines without getting any visa at all. You just need your passport. When you arrive to the Philippines, you are given a 30-day visa-free stay, in which you can extend your stay initially for only 29 days, and that's what they call the visa waiver. So you will have a total of 59 days. And after that, you can then have options like 1 month or 2 months extension. Before they allow 6 months extension. Now I don't think so. But you can do 1 month or 2 months visa extension repeatedly for a maximum of 3 years. If you go beyond that and you're still here in the Philippines, you'll overstay. Now that is very difficult to fix. It's not like a simple visit to the immigration. You pay the fees, you pay the fines, and then off you go. It does not work like that. If you overstay here for 3 years, that's going to be a huge problem because you're going to be required to file for a motion. And I'm going to talk about that later on in this video. Okay, what is exactly a visa run? So as I mentioned earlier, tourists can only stay here for a maximum of 3 years. Now, expats who don't like to apply for a permanent visa do this. They come here, stay on a tourist, doing multiple visa extensions, and before they reach the 3-year mark, they exit the country, like they go to Singapore or Hong Kong, stay even 1 day. They stay there 1 day and then they travel back to the Philippines, and it restarts their allowable stay here in the Philippines. It's like nothing happened. Because in the Philippines, there's no official rule on how long can you actually stay or how long can you visit here in the Philippines. No. The only rule that is written is just a 3-year maximum stay for non-visa required countries. If you're from a visa required countries like China, it's only 2 years. So for expats who doesn't like to get the permanent visa because they're not married or they don't have 20,000 or even they don't want to put in the 20,000, they just stay here as a tourist and do the visa run. Now let's go back to the guy that I've met years ago. He's an American. He stayed here for 10 years and he managed his visa extensions all by himself. He never really asked for an agent to help him out. He lived frugally and handled everything smoothly until the pandemic hit. When travel restrictions came into play, he overstayed his visa and came to us for help. After that, his tourist visa journey was over. No more 3-year resets. Because during the pandemic, people actually are given the option to exit the country, but they don't want to because they can't re-enter back as a tourist. Only Filipino citizens and those who have existing visas, like permanent visas, can enter the Philippines. They just let their visa expire. If you overstay beyond 3 years, you cannot just fix it by going to the BI, pay for the fees or pay for the penalties, and then off you go. No, it's not like that. You need to file for a motion for reconsideration. It's like you making a letter, it's called a motion, explaining to the BI why you overstayed and how you should not be blacklisted. So at the end, you wait for a decision, probably around 1 to 2 months. And after you get the decision, you will be given 2 options. It's either you are ordered to leave the country, or you're not blacklisted at that point, you're just ordered to leave the country. Or number 2, you are given a chance to secure a more appropriate visa. And to some, it's permanent residency visa. Okay, here's what changed for him. During his stay here, he eventually started receiving his pension, which gave him the financial stability to transition to a better option, the Special Resident Retirees Visa, or the SRV. Unlike the visa run, the SRV offers a long-term residency without the hassle of constant extensions or travel. So what he did is, when he filed for the motion for reconsideration, he actually explained to the BI that he now wants to stay in the Philippines for good because he's been here for 10 years under a tourist visa. So he needs to explain that. Take note, the Bureau of Immigration, once you get to that point where you need to file for like a letter why you overstayed, the BI can actually look up your records on how long have you been staying here in the Philippines. And if they notice that you've been here as a tourist, they might be a bit skeptical. I mean, you're here for 10 years. Why are you not applying for a permanent visa, right? So eventually, he decided to apply for a SRRV retirement visa, but it's not going to apply for the classic category, which requires 20,000. No. Since he started receiving pension, I think if I can recall correctly, that's around 1,000 plus. He's not in the military. He will be qualified for the 10,000 US dollars visa deposit. Take note, that's not a payment, it's not a fee. It's only a lock-in money for as long as you have the visa itself. If you decide to cancel it, you can get it back. Don't treat it like an investment where you watch the interests grow, because it's not like an investment visa. It's not designed to grow your money. So treat it just like an emergency savings. Let's say if you wish to go back to your country, you can cancel it, you can get the 10,000 back. So that's what he did. The visa run only messed up during the pandemic. I'm not sure in the future what's going to happen next, because there's an upcoming modernization act. Maybe the BI will be a bit stricter. If you have the option to apply for a permanent visa, whatever permanent visa there is, if you have the option to apply, grab that chance, because we don't know what's going to happen in the next few years. Now, do I recommend doing the visa run? Here's my honest take. If you qualify for any type of visa and you intend to stay here long term, then get it. But if you're an expat who just wants to stay here periodically, let's say 6 months in a year, well, you don't need to get a permanent visa. You can just stay here under a tourist visa, because the paperwork is not that difficult. You just need to go to the BI every 2 months doing visa extensions. And if you decide to leave the Philippines, you can just exit freely. Because if you're under a permanent visa, let's say 2 years, you have been staying under a permanent visa, and all of a sudden you decide, hey, I'm gonna go back to my home country, I'm no longer interested in staying in the Philippines, that is a bit difficult. You need to downgrade your existing visa and pull out whatever visa deposit that you may have before you will exit the Philippines. But of course, I recommend getting a permanent visa if you are intending to stay here long term. Let's say if you are married to a Filipino citizen, you can get a 13A. There's no money in the bank, it's permanent. If you're not married, but you just want to stay here long term, let's say you sold everything back in your home country and you decide to stay here but not get married, you can get something more independent like the SRV. I've made a video about it, including the cost, the deposit, the process, all in the other video. Check that out, link in the description. So what do you think? Does the visa run work for you? I mean, it's not the best option, but it worked for some people. Now, if you decide to get a Philippine visa, always think about your best interest and then the long-term plan. Do not just apply for a visa because you're qualified for it. Sometimes circumstances changed and your visa is affected. So always think about plan B.
Let's finish up this week with the Expat Lightning Round. Where I quickly cover interesting clips from expat-related channels.
Talk about how expats, foreigners who come here to the Philippines, are still getting themselves into serious financial problems, often going broke. One of the main problems is they underestimate what their monthly expenses are going to be here in the Philippines. We've all seen the videos of the guys who say, oh, I'm living over here on $650 a month or $1,000 a month. And these guys come over here and they think they're going to do that. And they find out that it can be done, but they cannot tolerate that lifestyle. And so while the cost of living in the Philippines can be significantly less than Western countries, especially when it comes to things like rent, many expats still underestimate what their actual expenses are going to be. And there's really no way of knowing that until you really get here. So I would always overestimate how much it's going to be. And especially if they come over here and they try to live or recreate a Western lifestyle, begin dining in fancy restaurants, staying at luxury resorts, it all adds up really quickly. And so you have to, be very conservative when you first come here with your spending. And as you find out how much money you've got, you can slowly increase that as time goes on. But poor financial planning is the main cause of most guys going broke over here.
So that will do it for this edition of Expat News. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit the notifications button so you can be notified of future videos once they're available. I'm always interested in your thoughts on these expat news and other videos. So please let me know in the comments section your thoughts of this edition. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.